All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Instagram. Good morning, YouTube. Good morning, Facebook. It is Thursday morning. It is 9:30 a.m. Cotton Cuts time. It is time for our regular weekly live show. Good morning, everyone. Hello. I see folks checking in from all over. We have New Mexico. Funny, my family has been watching shows set in New Mexico, of all places. And so, yes, New Mexico is near and dear to the Moose household heart. Good morning from Texas. You guys, it is lovely weather. We are getting our second spring before summer really kind of hits us pretty hard. So it is quite lovely here in St. Louis today. It is an enjoyable day. Hello from Vermont. Hello, Summer. Good morning from Oklahoma, you guys. Thanks so much for joining us. We have a fun show today. We're going to talk about color theory. And so we're going to talk about all the ways in which you can successfully execute color in your quilts, and also ways you can possibly look back at ones that you didn't like so much and have some more tools to be able to assess perhaps how you can continue to grow and develop. This might be some refresher. We're going to talk about, we're going to talk about primary colors and secondary colors. And I know we all took art class in elementary school and we get that, but we're going to talk about some advanced tools and tricks that you might not necessarily know about to help you just get a little bit, maybe just a little bit of an oomph, or perhaps a refresher or something you already knew and can bring it back to the front of your brain. So it's going to be super fun. You guys hang with me. We're going to talk a lot about color. Let's talk color theory, gang. This is the fun part of the show. And so I know when I say color theory, sometimes people are like, it's either considered too hard or too easy, or we have just enough, like, here's the knowledge, and we're like just skirting around the outside. Like, we know enough to be dangerous, but not enough to be conversant, knowledgeable, and be able to educate about it. And so what I want to do is give you guys enough information to supplement the knowledge I know you already have, and give you the confidence to be able to make decisions for your quilts going forward. And so I'm going to read this statement to you about what color theory actually means, is, and does. And so it's essentially the study of how colors relate to each other, how they interact, how they contrast, how they harmonize, and most importantly, how they make us feel. And so I don't want to lose that element, because I think we get stuck in a lot of it needs to be in a color wheel, it needs to be adjacent, it needs to be like we put artificial rules in place, when in actuality, one of the most important things is, how does the color story, how does the color theory make you feel? And I don't want us to lose this as we go through all of it. And so in our background for this, Giuseppe, who's Juicy Juice on social media, he came to our New Orleans retreat last year, and he gave the crowd, an entire audience, about some words that we think are synonyms, but are actually not. And they have very distinct meanings, and they have very different interpretations and applications. And you could see like light bulbs were going on in the audience. Now, this is not going to be nearly the depth of presentation that Giuseppe did, but it's going to be enough to give you more confidence that the words are not necessarily synonyms, and what they actually mean and how they're different from each other. So let's talk about the color wheel. So I've got a color wheel, right? I've got a super complicated, fancy Riley Blake color wheel, you guys, but I've got a traditional color wheel. These are things that I know we studied in elementary school. And so I want to talk first primary colors. And so I don't want to do pop quiz, because I think everyone knows that the primary colors are yellow, red, and blue, right? Those are our primary colors. Our secondary colors are the colors that, when you took the paint and you mixed it together, you mix the yellow and the blue together and you got green. Sorry if I could do it. If you got the yellow and the red and you mix them together, you got orange, and you mixed red and blue together and you got purple, right? Those are secondary colors. And then the tertiary colors are the ones that live between. So between the red and the purple, we have our red purples. These are the ones, they're very simple. If they have a hyphen and they're two primary or two secondary colors together, they're a tertiary color. So if you take this one in here, we have one that's more violet blue. We have one that's more blue violet, right? And so those are going to be our tertiary colors, or the ones that live in between. So that's how they live on the color wheel. But from there, we can talk about how they harmonize and how they work together to come up with color palettes that work together, and that work together the way that you want them to. You are in control here. You're driving the bus. So how do we get these colors to work together to give us a quilt that we are going to love? And so it's important to know kind of how the colors interact with each other. So analogous colors are colors that sit next to each other on the color wheel. So purple and red are analogous colors. They sit next to each other on the color wheel. So these colors are going to be very harmonious. They're going to be very cohesive. They're going to be very serene. They're going to play very well together in a calming from a viewer perspective, right? So as you look at them, you're going to be like, oh, that's super nice, right? It's probably analogous. And so when we look at our puzzle mystery quilts, we do a lot of work with analogous colors. We do a lot of works that are going to play nice together because they're adjacent to each other on the color wheel. Here's another example, right? These colors, if you put them in a quilt, depending on the tone, hue, and saturation, which we'll talk about in a minute, they're going to look very nice together. It's going to have a very calming effect on the person that's looking at your quilt. So the next one is complementary colors. And so the word that is associated with complementary colors is drama, right? This is not serene. This is not the calm and soothing. This is drama. And so these are colors that sit directly across from each other on the color wheel. So blue and orange, red and green, and then yellow and purple. And so these are the colors. And of course, all the colors in between, which is why we have this fancy color wheel. So if you draw a line directly across your color wheel, you are going to have colors that vibrate. You're going to have colors that are intense. And this is for a bold, high contrast quilt. This is, you want to get someone's attention snapped, and you want to have a high amount of contrast between the colors that are used in your quilt. This isn't the serene, this is drama. And when you take something that's on the polar opposites, you're going to elicit a very different reaction in your finished quilt. Then we're going to talk about triadic colors. And so I actually have a triadic color combination matched right now. They're going to be equally spaced around your color wheel. So triadic colors are going to be, they're a little bolder to pull off because they're not singing from the same songbook, right? So this is probably one of the hardest color combinations to pull off. But when it's done in balance and in harmony, you can pull off a red, blue, and yellow quilt very nicely if you use tone and balance to put it together, and it can be absolutely so show-stopping, but it is hard to do. They are vibrant, and they are playful, and they can be successful, and it's just very, very hard to do. And so make sure that you have the right pattern and the right balance and the right load of those colors in your quilt to make sure you get your desired effect. There's something that's a little bit more forgiving when we talk about the triadic, and that is a split complementary. So that's exactly what it means. And so it is taking, instead of going directly across the wheel or directly balancing it, you're going to go slightly off center. So you're going to come down here and you're going to go this way, one or two triads. So you're going to go slightly off. And so it's going to give you a little less drama, and it's going to be a little bit more forgiving because it is here, but it is halfway between something that's very hard and something that's very dramatic. And so it's going to have contrast and energy without quite as much tension because the colors aren't fighting together. They are playing nicer in the sandbox, and it's going to give you a quilt that's going to have a little bit more energy, and it's going to be more visually appealing than the stark contrast of going directly across the color wheel. So this is an interesting concept. If you've made a quilt, and we're going to have you do this exercise at the end. If you've made a quilt and you've looked at it, you're like, gosh, those colors just didn't work. It could be worth just pulling out your color wheel and being like, okay, well, it didn't work because it was purple and it was yellow. And maybe I shouldn't have had those colors together. They weren't playing well in the sandbox together. But this is definitely a tool for you to look at as you're looking at across the color wheel. And I know we all have the color wheel. I know we know how to use it. But at the same time, it's knowing that, is this directly across, and what am I getting myself into? Is this adjacent to, and am I setting myself for a softball for some little bit of success, right? So that's definitely something to consider. The next word I want to talk about is value. And so I know when we talk about value, this is something that gets mixed up with some of the words that I'm talking about in the future. But value has, forget this, nothing to do with color. And so I think when we think about value, we think it has to do with color. It's actually about light and dark. And so it's the amount of black and white and gray, in some cases, in a fabric. And so how do you measure the amount of white and black in a fabric? It's not like you were there when it was screen printed. You don't know how much black dye was added. You don't know how much white was added to the fabric. But what it actually does is it determines this value determines how much contrast and how many elements you're going to be able to see in a quilt. And so we've given this advice before. This is all over the internet, is take a black and white photo of your fabric choices, and then that'll tell you how much black and white is in each fabric. And it literally works. You take the black and white photo and it tells you how much black. You can see visually how much black is in your fabric and how much white is in your fabric based upon the resultant photo. Now, that's easy to say. I saw in a Facebook group last week, someone like, hey, I took my black and white photo. So what? Now what? Now what do I do with it? So what I want to do is I want to show you guys an example of how this actually works. And so Paula is going to show us first photo number 1. So what I did is I went and I got some green, yellow, and orange fabrics, right? And so they are adjacent to each other. They are analogous. Right? So using our terminology, they're analogous to each other. I used green, yellow, and orange. Okay. So in this picture, right, this looks bright. This looks lovely. This looks fun. They're all they feel the same. And then if we look at photo number 2, which is the black and white photo of this bundle, we're going to see what the problem is. What's that? Okay, so she's waiting for her computer. So what we do, so right as we're looking at this, like this could be a very common color package. Like you would pick this, you've got your color wheel, it's great, they're looking the same. And then you take your black and white photo of this. These fabrics have a lot of white in. They were bright. Surely they must have a lot of black in them. No, these fabrics are bright with a lot of white, you guys. So when you look at this, and if you want to cut these fabrics up and sew them together, it is going to be, you're going to be blinded to it. You're not going to see any of the design elements. The fabrics are all going to, I'm going to use this word, read the same. So there will be no definition. Yes, there'll be minor color definitions, but they will all read the same. It is going to be a muddy, ucky mess. And so it has a lot of white in it. So the first experiment I did was add some more, right? Can you reload number 3, please, Paula? So in picture number 3, I was like, hey, what I would naturally do with this quilt, I've got a lot of bright, vibrant colors. Maybe if I add some cream prints, it'll help, right? This is something I would have easily sewn, you guys. Hey, I'm going to give my eye something to rest. I'm going to add some more white fabrics to it. But then when we look at photo number 4, Paula, where I take the black and white photo of this again, I have taken fabrics that are all white, that have a lot of white in it, and I've added more white to it. So I'm actually doing the opposite. There will be no discernible design differences in this. It is going to be an ucky mess. There's one print that might show that delta. You see there's one that's like lightly gray in there, but vast majority of these prints have a lot of white value in them. Now, the next photo, Paula, I actually, instead of adding 2 white prints, I went and I got 2 darker prints, right? So I added a brown and I added this really darkish kind of bluish, right? Again, I'm probably not going to make this quilt, right? But I'm showing you guys, for example, how I took a brown and then I took a darker blue and then I took the black and white photo again, Paula. And so when we do that, you can see that these ones are going to show darker, right? Look, almost immediately, right? And so I know wherever I put those fabrics, there's going to be a pop, because it is going to stand out against the other fabrics. And so this is valuable, because that first bundle where I was like, I'm doing everything right, you guys. And Paula, we can come back, where I've got the green and the yellow and the orange. I have got it right. I'm listening to Kim. I've got analogous color. They're going to play well together. But I did not look at the value. Yes, Yana, brown makes it pop. We're going to skip right over that. I didn't look at value. And so had I just looked at colors and how they play on the color wheel, I would have missed the fact that we're going to create a quilt that's just going to be, it's going to be kind of a smear. It's not going to have anything that's going to pop or look different. And so Yana is absolutely right. By adding that brown print, by adding something that has more black in its value, it's going to create some contrast and create some design elements that we're going to be able to see going forward. All right, so now let's take a look at hue. And so the next view, and some people might think value and hue are the same. It is not. So hue is simply what the highest name of a color is: red, blue, green, yellow. That's its hue. So when we look at this bundle, purple. When we look at this bundle, blue. When we say hue, it is what the color reads as. Now, I mean, mind you, we can break this down and do like blue, violet, blah, 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 all the stuff. But what hue is the color name itself. When we talk about saturation, that is how pure and how intense that fabric actually is. And so let me get a good bundle here, right? So when we talk about saturation, we're going to retie this one. Sorry, guys. It is, how intense is the color? So we can all agree like that saturation is very, very saturated yellow. And so when it is a high amount of saturation, it is going to be very pure. It's going to be very intense. It is going to really have a significant amount of color in it versus a low saturation, right? So here we have a low saturation yellow, and low saturation looks dusty, muted. It definitely looks kind of dirtier. It has a lower amount of intensity of yellow in it. And when you mix the high saturation fabrics with a low, you're going to have a complex design because you can see these two fabrics together. They're going to be amount of a break in the design, and one actually brings out the other and the other. So they come together to form kind of a medium saturation. This one brightens this one, and this one dampens this one. So it brings them together, and you can create quite actually very, very stark looks when you mix fabrics of different saturation. And then there's color temperature. And so I feel like color temperature is a concept that most of us learn when we're decorating our homes. And that's really warm color versus cool color. And so warm colors traditionally are the red, oranges, and yellows. Red, orange, yellow. Those are traditionally our warm colors. Cool colors are blues, greens, and purples. So it is this half of the color wheel. It is our blue, greens, and purples. Those are traditionally cool colors. When you're using warm and cool in a design, it is important to note that warm colors will advance out of the quilt towards you. So if you're using a red, orange, or yellow, it's going to come away from the quilt at you. If you're using a cool color, it's going to come back into the quilt, right? So as you're looking at your designs and your colors, it would be interesting to take warm colors, put them in the center, and have the center come out as you're looking at it, and then use the cooler colors in the border and have it come back to you. Or opposite, you can have the warm colors on the outside, and that part's going to come to you, while the cool colors in the middle come back to you. And so it's just interesting how I know we look at, hey, I want a warm color palette. Hey, I want a cool color palette. I like warm colors. I like cool colors. And I feel like this is probably one of those ones where people are on opposite sides of the fence, but they can interplay together very nicely to create this visual effect of 3D happening in your color choices. Okay, so let's talk about how you put all this in practice, right? I've been shooting a lot of vocabulary at you. These are all things you guys can go on the internet, find lots more information about, but know more than when you did beforehand to give you more confidence in how you're using these word choices. So you need to decide first on the color story. Are you going to do analogous, complementary, or triadic? How are you using the color wheel? Are you going to drive all the way across it and take the like super extreme challenge, the double dare challenge? Are you going to go adjacent to, or are you going to go triadic? How are you thinking about the colors in your quilt, and how are you going to have them play together? What is your desired effect? Drama, serene, or nice and playful? Do you want to check your values? So you want to make sure you have a clear range from light to dark. You want to make sure that you have that story. You want to make sure your white and your black and all of your fabrics are balanced as you're selecting. And if everything is reading that mid value, swap something out, take something out, put something new in, take another photo. Photos are cheap, you guys. We all have high-powered computers in our pocket. Take that photo. It is worth saving yourself that headache later. I can tell you, I made a quilt. I didn't take a photo. Everything was all black, and the quilt's a mashup. It is a crazy hot mess. We love it. It is still loved and appreciated, but it is a crazy hot mess. How do rainbow quilts fit into the color story? So in that case, they are analogous, complementary, and triadic. And so if you are doing a rainbow quilt, you are by definition putting analogous colors together in. If you go Roy G. Biv, if you put them in red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, you are putting analogous colors together, which is why rainbow quilts are so visually appealing, because the analogous colors are right next to each other. And by definition, you've separated out the colors that are complementary and across the wheel from each other. So by doing that, you are making a visually appealing color palette. Now, if you want a hot mess, please put the red next to the green and the yellow next to the purple and the blue next to the orange, and you will no longer have a rainbow quilt, and your eyes are going to start rah, 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 because you've made it very hard on yourself. If you keep it in the rainbow order, you are keeping analogous colors next to each other. If you jump all over, you are going to create a hot mess. So you can use rainbow colors in a way that is going to be It will, and not many people make quilts this way, but if you take a scrappy quilt and you use all the fabrics together, it is going to read as one color because your eye won't be able to discern the colors next to each other. It is going to be a hot mess. Okay. Okay, good, Yana. I'm glad that was helpful for you. Good. All right. So first, make sure, are you doing analogous, complementary, triadic? Second, check your values. Third, think about your saturation variety. How are your saturation levels going to play together? Knowing that less saturated colors are going to make more saturated colors come back. How are you thinking about saturation? And then the fourth one gets back to that feeling. And that's trust your eye, trust your gut. If you're looking at it and something feels off, please don't push through it because your picture looks great and it's right on the color wheel. If something feels off, you have to trust your gut because that's your feeling element. And if something feels off at fabric selection, you are going to see what feels off in your finished quilt design and you are going to drive yourself nuts. So if something feels off when you're selecting your fabric, swap it out and start the process all over again. Is it analogous, complementary, triadic? Take the picture, start over again, trust your gut. And so I want to make sure that everyone knows that color theory is another tool in a quilter's playbook, but not a cage. It is not a cage at all. You're ultimately going to pick up, and I love it whenever I'm like, hey guys, go find red fabric. And someone comes back to me with the fabric here. I'll give you an example because I have one here. This is going to be used in Liberty Peak. So it's red, but it has white in it and it has black in it. Is this red fabric, right? And we have other prints that are harder to determine if it's red or if it's something else because they have multiple colors in them. Those are up to you as an experienced quilter to decide how you classify those colors. We get white fabrics all the time that have 6 different colors in them. Where does that go on this puppy? That's where your experience comes in, is how do you want to use that fabric? How are you choosing to use that fabric? And how is it going to play together with everything else? Okay. I want to talk about monochromatic quilts. And so when I say monochromatic, people often think it's just one color, right? It is a one color quilt. And it picks a single color. It picks a simple, hue. And it is going to use all of the shades, the tints, and tones of that hue together. So these color bundles could make a monochromatic quilt. This would make a blue quilt. When you work with one hue, you can create something sophisticated and beautiful, and how you choose to play with those colors. Are you going to put all of your saturated colors together? Are you going to put all of the ones that have more white in them together, more white value? Are you going to use more black value? Are you going to shuffle it all up? Are you just going to throw all the fabric in the air and put it together and see where it lands? Depending on the intentionality you put into where you're putting your value and your tint and your saturation, it's going to change the finished design completely. So I'm saying this because we're about to start Hang 10. And so if you've purchased a Cotton Cuts pre-cut kit, it is a monochromatic scrappy quilt. We are going to give you fabrics and you're going to look at them and be like, these are not going to work together. But they are, because they are all the same color, because they're monochromatic, because we've picked the same hue. You can play with how you want to put them together. Do you want to put some that are a high saturation, low saturation next to each other so that way they kind of even each other out? You get to think about how you want to put these colors together to tell the story in your finished quilt. Now, mind you, it's still a mystery. We're not going to tell you how it comes together until the very end. But as you're sewing each individual unit together and you're putting your colors together, you're putting your purples together, your greens together, you can put some intentionality behind that. So that way you're looking at your fabrics and what do you want to go next to each other. If you put your triangles next to each other, you take a photo and they're all showing as black, you will know that segment will read as one harmonious piece. There is not going to be a lot of breaking up of the eye between it. Oh, hello. All right. Here, right? So here's an example. Whoops. I just dropped all of it. Okay, so here's an example of some of the fabrics that we used in our blue quilts, right? So you can see we've got some lower tints. We've got some higher tints. They're all the same hue. I bet you if I take a photo, this one probably has more black in it, while these 3 probably have the same amount of white. So when you're putting these fabrics together, I'm not asking you guys to spend 16 hours doing this, but if this is important to you, it could be an opportunity to kind of use some of the lessons we've been talking about here as you're creating your Hang 10 quilt and as you're putting all of them together. So just something to think about. Monochromatic does not have to be one note. It can actually sing, and it can actually have depth and dimension to it depending on intentional fabric choices. Oh, Paula's bringing me more. She wants me to talk more. Okay, so this is what we have for purple, right? And so as you can see, like, look, we've got this guy. This guy might not look so great, depending on what you put around that guy. That guy could look fantastic. But we've got different shades of purple. We've got different within the same hue, different shades of purple, different temperatures, different tints. Those are things for you guys to look at as you're creating these quilts. Just take that extra step if you like. And if it's too much, it's too overwhelming. I get it. This can be overwhelming. Just sew them together. Just make a finished quilt. It's going to look beautiful no matter what. It just might be a good opportunity to kind of see what else you can do with the things we've talked about today. Now, the last thing I want to talk about are the unexpected color combinations. We have all this theory, right? We've got all these wheels, and we're going to put these lovely colors together because the color wheel told us to, or I have experience. But at the same time, there's things that just go against everything I've just said and come out and look fantastic and amazing and phenomenal. And so some color combinations that work: olive green and pink with a gray. Show me where that is on this guy, you guys. Olive green, pink, and a gray. That is not on this wheel at all, especially when you start talking about some of the shades of gray and some of the shades of brown. Navy, sky blue, and pink look great together. Teal and rust look good together. Mustard and purple. Yeah, those are definitely, that is a triadic colorway. Mustard and purple for sure. The one that I have made that I would never have put together on my own, but I saw a demo in a shop: pink, brown, and neon green. Never in my life would I have put neon green and brown together with pink, and the quilt is amazing. This child loves this quilt, is on her bed right now. Pink, brown, and neon green. So sometimes you just got to go with how it makes you feel, right? When you see that and you're like, that is amazing. That is a fantastic way to emulate and be able to challenge yourself to try new colors that are outside of just traditional color theory, to come up with something new. This is how we innovate, is we see this happen and we innovate, and all of a sudden we have a new color combination and it looks fantastic and amazing together, and influences a lot of other people to do the same. Okay. Right. I think that's the end. I think that's everything I wanted to talk about color theory. So hopefully I've given you enough to be dangerous. Hopefully I've given you enough information to be confident in your Hang 10 colorway selection.